Howdy, church. It is good to be with you here today. My name is Rhett, and I'm the student pastor here at Woodridge, and I hope this summer is treating you well. You're finding some respite and resting in Jesus. I have a question for you here today in this devotional, and that is, what is the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning? I'm talking about before you cook breakfast, before you get ready for the day, before you head to work. The very first thing you do in the day, if you're anything like me, might be to look at this thing. Once you silence your alarm, you go straight to it. You spend a few minutes scrolling on your phone, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, looking at what's going on in the news. There's all kinds of reasons why we might do this. But a study found that over 50% of people go to their phone when they silence their alarm. It's the very first thing they do, and they spend a few minutes scrolling. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but I think in Scripture, we see a better way to start our day. In Psalm 5, verse 3, the psalmist says this, "Lord, in the morning you hear my voice. In the morning I prepare a sacrifice for you and watch." We see two things right there that we can do first thing in the morning before we even look at our phones and do anything else. And the first thing is let God hear our voice. We cry out to God, asking Him for help for that day. I don't know what you're going through. Maybe you have a really difficult season of work or family life or a medical struggle, but let that be the first thing you cry out to God in the morning instead of going to your phone. And the second thing the psalmist says right there is that he prepares a sacrifice for the Lord and watches. And we know that sacrifice, we no longer have to do a sacrificial system, but the sacrifice we offer is our very lives. Romans 12:1 says, "I appeal to you therefore, brothers, by the mercies of God, to present your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God, which is your spiritual worship." So go to God, cry out to Him, offer a sacrifice, which is yourself. Say, "God, what do you need from me today? What do you want from me today? How am I going to pour myself out today for you?" And then the other thing we see is in Psalm 143, as I was listening to a podcast, this is one that came up, and it says, "Let me hear in the morning of your steadfast love, for I trust in you. Make me know the way I should go, for to you I lift up my soul." Let me know in the morning of your steadfast love. That's the other thing we want to see, is we want to see God's love. And the way we see that is through Scripture. So if we're thinking of a better way to start our day than spending the first 5 minutes scrolling on this thing, I want to offer a challenge to you to let the first thing you do after you silence your alarm to be cry out to God. Even while you're still on your pillow, cry out to God for that day. Ask Him for the needs that you have that day, that He would fill them. Ask Him that He would sustain you. Prepare your hearts for that day. Prepare the sacrifice of our very selves for the Lord for that day. And then go to the Word of the Lord, because that's where we see His steadfast love, is in His Word. So that's a challenge that I'm going to pick up, and I would challenge you to do it as well. And watch how the Lord prepares you, and watch how He grows your faith, and watch how He sustains you through that day.